Wow, just wow. This game has to be called wow. I lost my queen, and I played hard. I hate people that fianchetto at the beginning of a game because to me I don't know, it's just not considered. I always feel it's not really considered. I just think they're just like, I don't know, playing without thinking. So I like to do unusual things in response. Usually I like to fianchetto straight back at them, but on this occasion I decided to come up with this king pawn opening and see if I could get ahead in terms of the development and the structure, get a really good position or advantage. So just defending it with the knight, not opening up my position too much. And of course the fianchetto on the other side, not using their noddle at all, so we can defend this knight. But if I use the bishop to defend the knight, and then he captures that knight, then that pawn is no longer defended, so I've got to now defend the pawn actually. So the best option I thought was the queen. We don't want to do this because that lays open a line to the king. We don't really want to do this because that takes off the defense of the knight, and as I say, if we do this, that loses us a pawn. So it just seemed to me it either had to be this, which I don't like, or the queen. Now, queen could come to here as well, a bit more aggressive, but I decided that I would like her to also be defending that knight. A couple of extra things to do. So that's what we did. We brought the queen here. And now he's going for like a kind of thing, a really ultra defensive kind of. He's playing as white, but he's playing as if he's black, which is kind of weird. So out comes this ultra defensive thing. He's saying, I want to make my white bishop mobile. I can now afford to bring out my white bishop because I've defended that pawn. I do have to watch if it's attacked though, because apart from anything else, the queen is pinned. This pawn is pinned. Gosh, that's a tongue twister, against the queen. So we first of all just defend the bishop. There's many ways of doing this. I could also have done that, but what I did was I defended the bishop, so that there's no chance of him nabbing that bishop if I have to move that knight. And now we get him doubling his attack on the pawn. So now I can put the bishop in, and now I've got just as many. The quantum's okay, it's in my favour still. Or at least it's even. The quantum is even. And now he just kind of copycats me, which is really bizarre. I would have thought he should have castled at this point. So I realised this knight has quite a handy little square to go to here at this point. He's left all those light squares open for me, and that will restrict his bishop's movement somewhat. I thought that was quite nice. He obviously he assumes I'm going to castle on the king side, and he's also doing this unthinking thing of he castles queen side, I castle king side. He's not thinking, he's not playing with his mind. That isn't always the right strategy.
Kingside castling.
I castle kingside, but he's nowhere near castling yet.
Kingside castling.
He grabs the knight, and I don't think that helps him at all. He's given me a mobile bishop there. I know you normally like to be attacking his pawns with your bishop, but here I like the mobility of my bishop, because this is an entirely dark squared game. I mean, everything's on the dark squares, both of us. And I like the freedom it's given my white bishop. So he decides to push, but he hasn't yet castled. He should have been focusing on castling. I know he's looking for a fork there between the knight and the queen. Why he didn't... Yeah. So he was looking for the fork between the knight and the queen, and I just missed that fianchettoed bishop. And that's one of the reasons I fianchetto bishops, is because they do catch you out. He grabs my queen, and I've got to take the bishop back. What's coming next, I assume, is he's going to attack my knight with that pawn. Which would lead to this.
Check.
But he did do that, which was odd. What he did next was he took that pawn, which was completely wrong. I suppose he was looking to advance the pawn with another pawn backing it, but then after I take that, now he can't advance that pawn. So that was a foolish mistake on his part. I was hand starting to play with great accuracy, because I realised, looking at my position here, that now, especially after that bishop capture there, that can be used to successfully defend those pawns from rampaging towards my king. That my position is actually not that bad. He has not castled, his king is very exposed, and he doesn't have well-developed pieces. Let's just go back and look at what a foolish mistake that was, capturing with those pawns like that. You see, he uncovered his king. He should have been looking at castling at this point. So instead, he decided to break everything open, assuming that the king's side didn't matter because his king was going to castle queen's side, but he's opened his king there. He didn't think it through. And now he brings his knight back here because he realised otherwise if he doesn't, then this wouldn't have been good for his knight. So he brings his knight, starts to bring his knight out to get it to do something. And
check.
I've got a check here, which is lovely. And at this point, I felt like I might actually be able to win this game. My king is still a bit pinned against that pawn. You know, the knight is theoretically pinned when that pawn advances, so I don't like that. That's something that has to be dealt with, that rook heading for my king. Or does it? I think it needs to be dealt with, but it's a bit dodgy. If my king goes in the corner, then the pawn that his queen could take that pawn, or even his... Yeah, he hasn't got the bishop, has he? The queen could take that little pawn on f6 with a devastating check. So... my king, it was a bit tricky. What do I do? Do I move my king in the corner and have the rooks on the E and G file? Or do I double my rooks? And if so, which file do I double them in? Well, it seems I should double them in the E file. So I was kind of thinking that, so I did this. Now he attacks this bishop. When you're down a queen, the last thing you want to do is lose material, because it will only augment the advantage for your opponent. That's to say, so let's say for the sake of argument, you only had 2 pieces, and they had 2 pieces and a queen. If they then exchanged one of those pieces, they'd have 1 piece and a queen, and you'd have 1 piece. They'd have double the amount of pieces, and one of them far more powerful. Whereas if you have 2 pieces and they have a queen, you've got a bit more. You've got like 2/3. It's the way the maths works. You don't want to lose any pieces when your opponent is up a queen. On the converse, if you are got your opponent's queen, if you've won your opponent's queen, you want to start to exchange off pieces as much as possible, because those pieces could trap your queen, they could get your queen. Now, there were certainly ways already that I could see that I could have won his queen, but I would have had to have lost something like a rook for it, and that wouldn't have been very good. I wouldn't have been up enough material then. It would have been a bit tricky. So, we're here now, and I am not exchanging the pieces so that the bishop comes to here, which is great, because it means that if I have to retreat it further, I can just plop it in front of the king, and that will pretty much seal that for a while. So now he attacks the other bishop with his knight, and the other bishop goes here. And this is all absolutely fine. I like this. I could now actually pin that knight using my white bishop. I didn't actually bother to do it. Just brought the bishop back to here. That locks in his knight now, which was lovely. I mean, I was glad to that square, because now his knight is locked in, and I can trade it if I want to, if I feel it's going to be annoying. He's going to start advancing pawns onto the bishop, but it's going to be too late. It's going to take 3 moves to even threaten it, and I've still got retreating squares, and I've now doubled the rooks. So on the next move, I could theoretically try and win the queen. King moves to here. So what do you do now? Well, scissor attack.
Check.
And he cannot escape into the corner. He's got to go back or block it with something. He blocks it. I think he's worried about his queen at this point. And after much thought, I wasn't sure whether it was the right move. I considered
check.
Another check here. Still not sure about whether that would have been better. Obviously he would want to move there so he doesn't get checked with the knight again. No, I didn't think I didn't think that was very tidy. So He blocks.
Check.
I just took it. I just got it. Sometimes you just have to grab your teddy, grab your prize. He recaptures with the king. And now I move the king out of line. I did wonder if maybe that would have been better and start to line up rooks with his king, but it will just retreat the king away from that line, that file, so there's no point really. So I put the king to safety here. Relative safety. And his queen comes here. She's getting ready to attack my knight by the look of things, which I didn't actually see at the time. But I've got this. She has to run because she couldn't even recapture there if I took her. Well, unless she did that, but then she really doesn't want that. So she has to run. I'm surprised looking at it she didn't run with check. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't worth a candle. So she ran to here. And then now, because of my white bishop, I can get this rook covered. He can't really attack it. I can get it covered there. And he is running out of places to run to, as you see. Just the one square. And knighty's coming up to help. He's trying to get something happening here with releasing that rook onto the back rank. But again, if he had castled, that rook would already be in the game. And he wouldn't be looking at a knight checkmate. It's, as I say, I called this wow. I called this game wow. Because I'm winning with no queen. Crushing my opponent for an early queen loss. Most satisfying win possible. And to do it with a knight checkmate is even better.